Alright, so I'm getting ready to do now valve covers on this, as there is oil down in the cylinders, and that's no bueno. There's oil cells that are down there at the bottom of these tubes, and in order to get to them, you have to take the valve covers off, and it doesn't ever hurt to change the valve covers anyways, but we'll go ahead and get to this. This front one's fairly straightforward. It's pretty easy. The back one's going to be a little more difficult because you can't see any of the bolts on the back side. So on this side of the valve cover, you can see I have 3 wiring harnesses with the bracket. That bracket does mount on here and connects to these 3 sensors down in here. Those are camshaft sensors, and I think that one's a VVT. I can't remember exactly. The one sensor is there. This little pin right here goes into this part of the bracket. So when you're disconnecting it, you reach under the hose, flick that bracket out, or that clamp out, and then move your wiring harness out of the way. You're not going to be able to get it completely out of the way because you do have another sensor down below there. So disconnect it from the front side of the engine here. And there's another one right there that I'll take off here in just a minute. And then all of these are 10 millimeters. So you've got 10 millimeter bolts hidden under here. You have a 10 millimeter hidden there as well. All of the rest of them are visible, except for this one. This reservoir has to come off. Don't take the bracket off because you don't need to. You can take the reservoir and roll it up out of the way, and then you can get to this bolt that's right there. The back side, like I said, is going to be a little bit more difficult, but it's the same principle. Although there's nothing that you technically have to move out of the way except for the wiring harness. So you got one Christmas tree here, one Christmas tree over there. Both of those are already out for some reason, so somebody may have done this once in the past and didn't do it properly. But you'll have your transmission or your power steering lines in the way. So when you take this off, that coolant line is wrapped through there instead of under like it's supposed to be. So let me take a step back here. This cooling line is normally plastic, and you can see here that they have a hose clamp on both sides of that bracket there. So this line normally goes under here to connect to I think this is the thermostat. I can't remember on all of these. It's way too much information for me to retain at the moment. Every single car that I've worked on has been forgotten pretty much because something new comes along. But it's supposed to be plastic, and of course I'd know that because I broke one of them previously. And it's hard plastic, similar to this fitting here, or the PCV lines like this. And you see they did the same thing with this one. They obviously broke it or it cracked, and they put a piece of hose on there and hose clamped it down. And that's supposed to be a hard line. Like this should be a hard line. So when it goes back together, or when it comes apart, it's going to be a little difficult on this one because that line is wrapped in between these 2 power steering lines. So I'll go ahead and take this bracket off, or this bolt off, and see how much room it gives me to go backwards. I may very well have to disconnect this line here after bleeding off the pressure from the degas bottle. Which probably has nothing in it since the cap is extremely loose. So I will disconnect it from here and route that hose properly whenever I go to put it back together. But just remember, if you do have to change that hose, it needs to be under these 2 lines and not in between them. It didn't come factory like that, so it doesn't need to be like that. Unless, of course, you don't have enough hose, and in that case, you need to get a longer one. Thanks for watching. The dog's about to go crazy.